LeaAnn, so our listeners know who our author is today. And LeaAnn is a women's transformational and fuller life coach. She's an Amazon #1 international best-selling author, a motivational speaker, and a radio show host. She's the founder of Fuller Life, LLC, where she travels empowering women to get out of their own way, to transform their life, find their greatness, and to live their fuller life. LeaAnn empowers women to find clarity about what it is they want, why they want it, and what is standing in their way so that they can quit living small and begin living their fuller life. LeaAnn is also the founder of Adopt a Mom for Christmas in memory of her own mother that has been able to give back to hundreds of moms in need over the holidays. LeaAnn is planning on turning this program into a year-round movement to support single and struggling moms year-round. LeaAnn is also the program director for WBOC, the premier organization for women in business. So, LeaAnn, you do so much for women, and not just women here in the States. Your message, and especially in regards to what we're going to talk about today, is going to be shared with women around the world. And especially during March, where we celebrate Women's History Month, where we celebrate International Women's Day, your message is so needed, and we want to support women everywhere, no matter what is going on in their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, LeaAnn, one of the things that we're going to focus on today is a book that you are creating with several other women.
Yes.
And your book is titled Saved by Grace, Opening Doors for Wounded Women Walking. So talk a little bit about how this specific book came into your life.
It's kind of an exciting story. At least I find it very exciting and very empowering. So as you mentioned in introducing me, I have my Adopt a Mom program. And a couple of years ago, I wanted to grow that. So I started a ladies' night, and we actually ended up adopting 100 moms that year to receive gifts over the holidays to brighten up their day. And the Exodus House was nominated, and the women of Exodus House were nominated to receive those gifts. So there were about 8 women there at the time, and the Exodus House is a shelter for women in a nearby city, Syracuse, New York, for women to go to that are recovering from addiction, they're recovering from abuse, they're recovering from tragic loss. There's so many different, it's there to support so many different women that are in need of recovering, and it's a Christian shelter, so it helps them become closer to God, closer to themselves, so that they can overcome whatever their obstacles or whatever they're struggling with and move on in life. And so I delivered the gifts to the director, Deborah Person, of this Exodus House, and we just started talking. I didn't get 5 minutes down the road, and she called me, and she just started discussing this vision that she had of sharing the Exodus House and sharing the women's stories, because they're so powerful, because there's nothing more powerful for us as women to see women that have lived through the challenges and the struggles that we may be living through ourselves, that we may have unfortunately had to live through ourselves, and they have made it through it. It's so powerful and so empowering for us to hear these stories, to read these stories, because it shows that there's hope out there. So we really wanted to spread that word that there is hope for all of us that may be damaged or are just struggling with any of these things. I'm a firm believer in life that we are meant to struggle, but we're not meant to suffer. So yes, we're all going to have our challenges. We're all going to have our obstacles and have struggles in life, but it's those struggles in life that help us grow. I heard at a event that I went to that there is no purpose without pain. It's those pains and those struggles that give us our purpose, because if we never had anything happen to us, if we never had any challenges, we would stay stagnant in our lives. We would never grow. We wouldn't become the amazing women that we're meant to be. So, and this book just ties into my message and what I want to get out there to the world. We are more than what has happened to us. We are not meant to be stuck there. Our past and all of the pain we've lived in life does not define us. It doesn't have to define us. We can be our own hero instead of someone else's victim. And these stories just of these women that have overcome such painful things that nobody should ever have to really endure, but they have, and they are overcoming it, and they're becoming so much better women for it. They've learned to acknowledge it and accept it and move on from there. And that's so powerful in our journey. And that's what this book is about. It's about to share these women's stories so that other women out there that may be going through the same thing or a similar thing, so they know that there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And, if you're going through hell, just keep going, because all it takes is one step at a time and you'll get there. You just have to acknowledge that what has happened to you so you can move on. Because in a lot of these, whenever we're suffering with something, there's always a reason. My story personally, I never really understood why I ended up being a mom at 16 years old, or why I was a little promiscuous, or why I did a lot of the things I'd done. But it took a lot for me to realize this all hinged from abuse as I was a child that I'd blocked out. I completely blocked that from my memory. But until I learned to acknowledge that, I couldn't move on. I couldn't figure out why all of this stuff was happening to me. So that's what this book is about. And it's for not only for these women, because there's something so healing about sharing your story and writing it down and getting it out there, because our stories aren't only for us, they are for other women. They are for the women who are living where we were or are. And so it's for them, for the healing, but it's for the women that we can help and we can support, and we can show them that there is a way. When there's a will, there is a way, that they're not alone. We have been through it, maybe even still going through it, but it can be overcome, and they can move on, and they can become just the amazing women that they're meant to be, and just get through everything that they've gone through and come out shining brightly.
Right. Well, one of the things that we do at Global Voice Radio is provide a platform for women and men to share their story, to share their message, for them to have a voice. And when we share that with others, then others see what we have been able to do. And it's that ripple effect. We as a catalyst,
Yes,
as we have shared our message, shared our voice, we do give others hope. Now,
yes,
you mentioned Deborah Person, and she originally had been in a women's shelter herself.
Yes.
And
Yep. So she was actually in a shelter herself, and she has been through abuse. She was a drug addict, and she has then turned all of that. And we take all of these things and we package them up, and we bring that all together, and we use that as a tool. We use that as a launch pad. You know, we have this rock bottom. We all hit rock bottom or can hit rock bottom. But we can use that as a launch pad to greatness. And that's exactly what she's done.
So through Deborah's own experience in being in a shelter and taking advantage of what the shelter was able to provide her in regards to training, education, support, love, acceptance, she then went on to become the founder of Exodus Home. And she is giving back from what she was given. She is now able to give back and to help other women to let go of their pain, to let go of addiction, to know that they are more than enough, that they are able to have purposeful and productive lives.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what she's doing. She started this, and this is her avenue. This is her platform to do for other women what was done for her. That's exactly what this is all about. And in turn, she's giving all of the women that have come to her in the Exodus House the same opportunities to do what she has done, and giving them the tools, giving them the support, giving them the love when maybe they've never had any love before. And that way they can do exactly what she has done. They can become that more that they deserve to be, that they're meant to be.
So LeaAnn, talk a little bit about the women who are writing about their story, their lives, women who from the Exodus House are contributing to this anthology. How has this process been for them?
It's really been amazing. And like I said, there is something so healing for a woman to finally be able to share their story. And there's something so healing about even just writing it down. Even if you aren't sharing your story with anybody else, just writing it down, getting it all out, and it gives you the opportunity to process what's happened to you because you're just getting it all out there. When we have something so bottled up inside, it overcomes us. It consumes us. And that's without us even knowing it. I mean, we have all this stuff we're subconsciously holding inside that we can't move past that. So when you're able to finally acknowledge what that was, because you may not even be aware, you know, some people lock this under the key and lock and key and throw it away. And so it's a process for them to just acknowledge what it is that's going on. Like, where does this pain come from? Like, so many of us, whether it's addiction to drugs or gambling or sex or whatever the addiction to food, that is being driven by something. So we went through a process, and as the women come through the house, I still go there once a month, and we go through the process of what is it that is keeping you back? What is driving you to these addictions? So we really do a lot of inner work and work on acknowledging what is going on. Where is this coming from? Because until you can acknowledge where this is coming from, you can't fix it. You can't overcome it until you know what it is. And then we work on just accepting it. We accept the fact that, yes, this happened to us, but that's not who I am. It's not my fault that all of this stuff has happened to me as a child. I had no control over that. We don't have control as children. I mean, we're kind of guided what we're meant to be. And so we work on accepting that it's not my fault and accepting ourselves for who we are. And then and it's sometimes a tough battle, but we also have to learn to appreciate what's happened to us because it's led us to where we are. And these are some of the things that these women work through while we're working on their stories. You know, we work on acknowledging it. We work on accepting it. We work on appreciating it. And that's really hard, because it's hard to appreciate being molested as a child or raped or whatever it is. It's hard to appreciate that, but that's something we almost have to do. And it's something that these women learn to do to a degree, because you almost have to, so you can move on. It helps to take, go ahead.
Right. And, you know, in some ways, if there is any part of us that we want to cut out, if we want to repress, if we want to forget and deny, then we can't be the whole person that we are. Every experience we have contributes to who we are.
Exactly.
What we can do. So the fact that you are helping them to look at the traumas and tragedies that have happened and realize in some ways that's in our body now, right? At a cellular level, every single experience is with us. It is in our brain, it's in our mind, it is in our cells. So when we acknowledge, embrace, accept everything that is in us, you're right, we continue to grow. And if we not do that, we continue to have pain, emotional and physical, that we cannot get rid of.
Exactly. And that's a big piece of what, that's a big piece of what these women are getting out of the books. I mean, there's some women that have chosen not to be a part of the book, but they still go through the process. And I think the beautiful thing about Exodus House is it brings them closer. It's, as I said, it's a Christian shelter. So it brings them closer to God, brings them closer to themselves, so that we can learn that we're not alone through everything. We are never alone. And appreciating what's happened to them, because if nothing else, they are getting closer to who they truly are, and knowing that they are not alone and that somebody does love them.
So I don't think that it's uncommon when we're doing a project such as this, that some women may not be ready to actually have their story published and shared with the world. And I'm still going through the process with you, helps them regardless if their story is ever published, because they're sharing it with themselves, they're sharing it with the women in Exodus House, and they're sharing it with you. So that is powerful in itself.
It really is. And it's just the healing piece. And when you're putting yourself out there, you get to really dig deep and just bring it all out, and you get to feel the emotion that maybe you've never had the opportunity to feel before, because that's a huge part of the process. Is you have to really acknowledge it, you have to feel it, you have to go through all of those emotions, you have to go through the pain and the hurt of betrayal and the people that were supposed to protect you and didn't. But that's such an important piece for these women, is actually having a safe environment and a safe place where they can actually feel those emotions so they can get past them.
So in regards to Exodus House and the services that they provide to women, how long are women usually living at Exodus House?
I think that really varies. I do believe it's anywhere from 3 months to about a year, I think, is normally the maximum that they're there. But I would say on average, it's somewhere between, it can vary, anywhere from 3 months to a year. I mean, there's some women who aren't ready to receive the help, and they come in and then they leave on their own, at their own will, and come back when they're ready. I mean, it's a process when you're going through something that tragic, and you're trying to overcome addiction. It's a hard process, and don't ever let me discount that and say that it's easy, because it's not, and it's a struggle, but it's a amazing place and just a safe environment for these women to actually face these challenges and be able to overcome it. And I would say normally it's 6 months to a year, but there are some that are only there for a few months. There are some that come in and they start it and they end up leaving because they find out they're not ready. But the door is always open for them to come back when they are, because it's,
And when you're
I don't know if you've ever faced this, but sorry, I don't know. Go ahead.
I know there's a little bit of a delay. When you're working
Yeah.
with addictions, it does take several months to have treatment and then to learn to live a new life. And letting go of an addiction is very, very difficult. So I can understand how women come into the program and realize that they're not ready. Because to give up an addiction that basically in some ways a person has seen as saving them, right? Because that's what happens. That's what the basis of addiction is. Basically, that has become their savior. That has become their life.
Yes.
So it is very, very difficult. And the recidivism rate for addictions is very, very high. So, like you said, at times the women are not ready. And if you look at statistics of men in regards to getting into addiction treatment and recovery, similar, that it's very difficult. And so that makes sense. But then it sounds like, though, they have a place that they can come back to. And if they need to try it 2 or 3 times, then they need to try it 2 or 3 times. But it is there to provide them support.
Absolutely. And I think it's like with everything that we go through in life is you get started down the right path and everything is going great. And then it's like you hit the brick wall. It's the same thing with addiction, I think, is that you are going through this and you're doing so good, but then you have this lapse where you're not really sure, you're not sure what's going on, or something just all seems to start going bad. I think that happens with everybody. I think it happens with addiction. I think it happens in life in general, because our body and our subconscious, I think, gets scared when they see this new life. They begin to see stuff happening and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not ready for this. And again, I think it's just in everyday life. It happens to all of us that things are going great and then it's like all this stuff starts happening. And sometimes it may be a test saying how badly you want it. It may be your subconscious saying, wait, I'm not ready for this. What's going on? This is scary. I'm not used to it. But it's so important that we have to know just to keep going. And I think it's the same in just everyday life, even, that we just have to keep moving forward. Even if we have to take a step back, all it takes is that decision to say, wait a minute, I've come too far to only come this far.
Right.
That I need this, I want this, and just keep moving ahead again. We beat ourselves up when we think we've taken a step back. It takes time to realize, wait a minute, we all make mistakes. We all move ahead and sometimes fall backwards, but it's making that decision to just keep going and start again, even if you have relapsed or fallen backwards.
Right. One of the things that is so important, which it sounds as if the Exodus House provides, is having a support system. And even when we look at traditional treatment for addictions, individuals have a sponsor. And they're to call that sponsor when they're thinking about and so the support that Exodus House provides, right, is to talk to someone and let them know when you're having those types of thoughts or doubts. Because when, even as you and I, if we do not reach out to other women and men or our support systems when we're dealing with something very emotional or we're having self-doubt, we want to quit whatever we're doing, then we might take several steps back. We might not do something because we had that moment of self-doubt. So as you said, any time for any individual, we may doubt what we're doing. We may doubt our abilities. And that's when we need to reach out and we need to talk to someone, not just to have them placate us, but to have a real, honest, authentic discussion of what's going on in our life. And I think, that's one of the things that books such as Saved by Grace, what it does is it allows the reader to connect through the written word with other individuals who have had difficulties, who have had tragedies, and they're moving forward one step at a time. So we can also.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
So you're in the process of editing. The women are finalizing their stories. How excited are the women, or what emotion do you see in them as they're getting closer to having the book published?
They're pretty excited. The ones that are a part of it or have been a part of it, a lot of them have moved on from the Exodus House, but they're very excited. They all have been so excited to be a part of this. This is something that a lot of them have wanted to do with sharing their story, but didn't know how to do it, and wanting to help other women go through this. And it's just exciting for them to just see the impact that they can have with other women and help, just in helping them know that there is hope, that in that feeling that I've done this, you can do this too. So they're pretty excited. And like I said, a lot of them have moved on from the Exodus House and are doing well. So yeah, they're pretty excited.
So what kind of plans do you have in sharing the book? I know that, in the past you've done workshops, you do travel to talk to women, across the United States. What sort of events are you going to have in regards to sharing what is in the book?
The Exodus House is going to have the books available at all times. And they do ministry work, and they'll be sharing it through that ministry work. And I have a lot of women who have reached out to me in support of this project and wanting to spread the word and get the word out on their platforms and getting the word out. And I think it would be amazing to see this book in a lot of the shelters and in a lot of the support network and support groups that are out there to share with women that need this book. This book can have such impact because it's so important as women to see we're not alone, to see that other women have been through this and have survived it. And not only have survived it, they are now thriving. And those are some of the options right now. I know that Deborah and I have discussed putting on some workshops for women in the Syracuse area to give them tools that they need to help to move on and go, where do we go from here kind of thing. And so there's a lot of different options that we're exploring to get it out there. But I think this book is something that can be used in a lot of the shelters for a lot of the women. And it's not only going to be a book, there's going to be a journal in the back of the book that will, the women who read this book who decide, wow, I want to get my story out of me. And so there's going to be a journal at the back of the book that they can begin to just get it out of them. Right. And I think that's a huge piece of recovery from anything is you need to get it out of you. You need to process it. And in the journal in the back, that's a huge piece to this book, is having that and being able to get started. Mm-hmm. And there's also going to be a resource section in the back of the book that these women that they've read the book, they've seen other women who have done it, where do I go from here? So they're going to have the resources in the back of the book as well. So if they are, have alcohol issues and they need help with that, drug addiction, suicide issues, where to go for abuse if they're being abused, those kind of things. And some of the amazing things I've noticed as I'm doing the research on this is a lot of these websites that are out there for women who are being abused and looking to escape, they have this amazing little feature where you can exit out of the website and no one will even know you were in there. It's not like they can open up the computer, hit the back button and see you're researching Vera House or you're researching some of these resources. So there's a lot of safety features that are a part of these resources. And that's going to be a piece of the book is, okay, you've read these stories, you've seen the impact, you're ready, you've started to write it down and you're ready to move on. Where do I go next? What do I do next? And I'm excited to have that added to the book as a piece. This book has evolved so much from the very beginning. And we started this process back in last year sometime, and it's just evolving so much and becoming so much more than what we even originally intended. So I would love to see this book accessible to women who need it in the shelters, just in the different locations where they can get support.
Right. Well, LeaAnn, you and Deborah and the women of Exodus House are creating something that can change lives around the world. And I appreciate being able to have you on the author's message, to be able to share your book. And you had mentioned to me earlier that the book will be out in April. So, of course,
yes,
Global Voice Radio will post about your book being available. And for our listeners, write down, and so you have a sticky note to look for, Saved by Grace, that will be coming out in April. And LeaAnn, I'm just very honored to know you, to know what you are doing to empower and help women. And so thank you very much. And I also want to let our listeners know to get a hold of LeaAnn. Go to her website, which is lovingyourfullerlife.com, and connect with LeaAnn. Look for her book, Saved by Grace, and join us every Saturday for another episode of the author's message on Global Voice Radio. And thank you again, LeaAnn, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here and honored to be here. Thank you.
You are listening to the author's message with Denise Joy and Irene Pro for lively discussions and guest interviews on authors, publishers, readers, and of course our listeners. Join us every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio.